What's up, guys? I'm Sam, and this is the Press Start Discussion Lounge. Joining us on the panel today is John.
Hello.
Paul.
Hey, guys.
And lastly, we've got Naj.
How you doing?
Today on the panel, I want to talk about how much attention do you pay to game reviews, game review scores, and if you do pay attention to them, do you really let them affect whether or not you purchase a game? So Naj, for example, you said your favorite game last time we had a discussion was Tomb Raider.
Yep.
Did you, prior to getting it, did you look at reviews?
No, I looked at previews. I looked at, but that's a game I grew up with, so I knew that I wanted to try it out, and then it just looked beautiful, so I knew that I was gonna eventually buy that game. But in general, it all depends on how much merit you give reviews. Like, I know in terms of myself, I buy Madden football every year, regardless of what the review is, just on the strength that it's the only pro football game available, just by default. So I'm gonna buy that regardless. But in terms of, new franchises, like in 2011 when L.A. Noire came to the scene, everyone was unsure whether it was gonna be, the second coming of Grand Theft Auto, whether it's gonna be another Red Dead game or something like that. And, I was concerned because, anything Rockstar puts out, I want to buy it. So
Amen.
Before it came out, I, went to IGN, GameSpot, and then, I did some searching on YouTube and, search through other player gamer reviews and stuff like that, just to, stay away from the mainstream reviews a little bit and, just to get different opinions on it. And I ended up making a purchase, and L.A. Noire was probably one of the most interesting narrative games I've ever played.
Yeah, I had mixed feelings about that, but John, you last time mentioned Last of Us. Were you? Because I know that one got a lot of recognition before it even was released.
Yeah.
So.
When I first saw The Last of Us, I was pretty skeptical because of it seemed like a new direction for Naughty Dog, and off the spectrum. But the company itself, has some solid titles, and so I was like, they probably won't mess this one up. So, I put faith into it. I didn't read the reviews and played it and stuff like that. And then just after that, I saw the reviews and how solid it was like that. And I couldn't agree more with them. And but I mainly bought on the basis because I know the company and what games they bring out, and that's how I basically made that decision. Do you guys ever do that? Like, do you look at a studio and say, I know they're gonna make a great game?
Rockstar.
You just go like Rockstar and stuff like that.
That's how I am, and Naj said it perfectly. Anytime Rockstar's about to release a game, and I get that way with some Ubisoft titles. Assassin's Creed. I don't know, what's your? Because you weren't in the panel last time. What would your favorite game had been, for example?
For last year?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, Last of Us looked pretty solid to me. I mean, everyone was talking about it. It was on everyone's top 3 lists. So when I went out and played it, I just thought, oh, I agree. So I think you sort of have to look at all the different reviews that are coming out, all the different people writing the reviews, and you just sort of have to
get a general idea of
you have to sift through
what game you want to buy.
Yeah, you have to sift through all the crowd and sort of figure out where you decide.
But during that process, you don't want to spoil it for yourself looking at all the reviews, because
Right.
I've done that before. I watched so many reviews, just because I was so excited for a game. Then when I got the game, I was, just, oh, okay, like, it's here, and,
It's like the game has already been.
Yeah,
it's like you feel like you've already
I've seen
played
everyone play it, and,
No surprises.
yeah, no surprises. So, I will say with Grand Theft Auto, I only watched one review with that, and that was the IGN review where they gave it a 10 out of 10. And, from there, they kind of gave me some skepticism about, like, wow, like, from the gate, a 10 out of 10. So it was just like, but I was still going to buy it anyway.
Yeah, that's fair.
I think for me at least, I do read reviews. I try to really look for like a certain number at least, because I use Metacritic, for example, and so Tomb Raider got an 83 out of 100 in general. Last of Us got 93, which doesn't seem to surprise me because I haven't met anybody who didn't like it. I mean, for example, and there are some games that get really good ratings that I disagree with. And going off of Naughty Dog, Uncharted 3, Drake's Deception. I personally thought that game was not good. And you liked that game,
What, Uncharted?
Uncharted 3.
I have never played Uncharted.
You've never played Uncharted 3.
I love the Uncharted. I love the Uncharted series. Like every game, I just thought was, you know,
Is this something like
very strong narrative.
Is this something like how like Tomb Raider is? Like, you know, a linear. Well,
That's maybe that's why I didn't like it. You know, it got 10 out of 10, and everyone I know that's played it loves it. And it doesn't make sense to me because for me it's linear, it's restricting, it's the gameplay itself. To me, I thought it was terrible. I mean, have you played it?
I haven't played it, but sort of like I think what you're going for is like when you see a game that has a 10 out of 10 review, you expect so much out of it. Like you expect it to be perfect. You expect it to be the greatest game you've ever played. But the thing is like it's not like that, you know? Like a lot of games get 10 out of 10.
Yeah, that's true. Like for Call of Duty, like new Call of Duty.
Call of Duty should never get a 10 out of 10.
Well, no, hold on. Let me finish. Let me finish. What I'm saying is most websites gave them a good, solid review, but when I played it, I just didn't like it. I didn't like it at all.
But it's okay to not like it.
Yeah, I didn't think it deserved the credit I did get, but that was just me.
For games like that, it's hard to rate because there's the two different. If you get a Battlefield game and you rate the online, obviously the online, as you know, is going to be a lot different than the campaign.
God.
But like if you play, like for example, Call of Duty Black Ops 2, I think the campaign is phenomenal.
Aside from the Strike Force missions.
Except for the Strike Force missions. But I think other than that, I think the multiplayer, as amazing as it is exactly like the other ones.
I guess that's when we come back to like companies and stuff like that because Treyarch had that one, and I
That's
think
true.
they do an awesome job with the Call of Duty series. Like I have never played one a Call of Duty made by them, and I was like, this sucks, you know. But like, yeah, when it comes back to it's like companies and stuff like that.
But then it's like you almost like I haven't read Game Informer for a past couple magazines, but I feel like there's such a rut that these companies get into, these reviewing companies get into with game developers that they start pretty much just copying and pasting the same reviews. And like you mentioned with Uncharted, the series gets the same recognition no matter what, and you know it's.
Well, that's why I sort of like to turn to sources like Reddit or I don't know, just forums around the internet.
That's a good way to
because
get
then
it.
you get more of like the community feel, and you know, there's people out there that aren't professional reviewers, and they might go out there and bring a different perspective to the game, you know, or reveal something that you never thought was like that a mainstream company wouldn't have, you know, said about the game.
Has there ever been a time when you guys were playing a game and you're like, I'm curious to look up the review for it. And you go back and look it up and you're like, it got a lower score than you expect. You're like, why did it get such a crappy score? I thought this game was great. And then, you know, have you guys ever done that? I do it a lot and I'm just like, why? You know, I thought this was so good.
I will say something. When anyone or let's just say the mainstream media gives a game a bad score, usually it's a bad game. Like if it buries it under a 5 or you know a 50, you know if
that's a given.
base it on a 100-point scale, then usually it's a bad game.
But see, there are some things. I was talking to one of our other producers, Noel, earlier today, and I think it was him, and I mentioned how Mario Kart 64 got a rating of 6.4 on some reviewing website. Like Mario Kart 64 getting a 6.4. So I think maybe it was just, I don't know. I feel like generally speaking, you're right. I think a lot of the games that have bad reviews are bad games. From my experience, I think that a lot of the games that have good reviews are bad games. I have very different. I don't know. Everybody's got their own different opinions on what makes a good game.
I think that like when we review games, we shouldn't just give like a game just a blanket score of like 1 out of 10. You know, you have to review different aspects of the game, and because there's different reasons why you play a game too. You know what I mean?
And that's a very good point because, you know, with these games today, you know how online has become such a big component of every game. With DLC, they're always changing.
Yeah.
Like with Grand Theft Auto 5, there's more stuff coming out for that game.
The
later on this year.
Valentine's, they just released the free Valentine's edition.
And not even just for multiplayer, for the story also. They're adding more story content also. That's why I'm pretty upset why I don't have a 360 anymore. So like, you can't, kind of hard just to give something a flat out score.
Kind of
while
just hope like for game companies to bring themselves out of the rut
Yeah,
they dig
so-
themselves into, you know.
their games are dynamic nowadays, and you kind of can't just give it a flat score. But I mean,
I think that's, as much as I don't particularly care for Game Informer anymore so much, their reviews, I do have to give them credit. They do give numbers based on specifics. So they have a rating for storyline and then for graphics and for gameplay. I think you hit it pretty spot on. You can, but it's hard to give a straight up score, you know, saying BioShock Infinite gets a 10 out of 10, but there's so many aspects to it. You know, you could rate character development, you could rate music, you could rate graphics and all of these things.
There's a thing too, just like, who's gonna sit there and think, you know, I don't like this voice actor, I'm not gonna buy this game, but it has a great storyline to it, you know. I mean, you, but like,
I don't know.
I don't. You're about like the only person I've met
I mean, well,
that is like
stuff
that,
like
but-
voice acting goes into account
Well,
when
actually,
you have a movie
there,
game.
there
or
could be
something
for like
that.
the new Metal Gear that's coming out. Some people
Can't wait.
wasn't crazy about David Hayter not voicing Snake this time, but and now Kiefer Sutherland's doing it.
Which
but
is
I think it's
awesome.
still pretty good. I like
I'm in love with that decision.
I will
Yeah,
always see
it
Kiefer
sounds great.
Sutherland as the angry man in 24, threatening to blow things up. That's all I will ever see him as. But like, I think even if there's a game like, whether it's in the Metal Gear Solid or in Metal Gear series or The Last of Us, for example, you know, if you have a game, even Grand Theft Auto had good acting.
Very good at it.
But if you have a game like, you know, Mario, Super Smash Bros., it doesn't matter how ridiculous they sound. Voice acting is voice acting for that. But when you have a story, a game where the story pushes it, like L.A. Noire or Heavy Rain, where you need to feel connected to the characters,
yeah.
a lot of the times they kind of gloss over that. They say, oh, the character wasn't enjoyable, but you don't really know why. And maybe
Yeah.
they do it vaguely so that you buy it and you go, well, why won't I like them? But I feel like there's just so much that's missed in reviews.
And that brings up The Walking Dead, the Telltale series one, how the story drags you in so much because the acting is good and the voice acting is spot on, but graphically and performance-wise has to be one of the worst experiences I've ever had. Like, I don't understand how a game so where it's not Battlefield where stuff is imploding and crumbling all around you. It lags so much, and it still got a 10 out of 10.
I think
But like what you were saying about characters, stuff like that, how make like some game reviewers point out to say, these characters are bland, they don't make you catch on and stuff like that. And that's actually one strong thing for me. If these characters are not like, if you don't care about them, then like what's the point in playing it?
Yeah.
Well, I think that's the reason. I think there's certain give and take. There are some games, Grand Theft Auto 5, I always bring it up. I think the story is good and I think the gameplay is amazing, but I don't feel a connection to the characters. As amazing as the voice actors are, I don't think that the characters were developed enough. And I think with something like The Walking Dead, the gameplay's not that good, but because the characters are so amazing,
You don't worry about the gameplay.
exactly. It's a movie.
Which is kind of weird since it's a video game, but that's how
It's
good
an
the story is.
interactive movie almost,
Yeah.
or an
It's
interactive
like,
TV
let the
series.
game play itself. You know what I mean?
Exactly. You're there to kind of literally push them in the right direction, but once you're there, it's like, whoa. But I don't know. I mean,
yeah. Well, coming back to retrospect to what you were saying about should we rely on like review scores and stuff like that. Well, I do a lot of it because I don't have the money to go out and shell out for the newest game and stuff like. Well, you guys,
Yeah.
yeah,
We are.
we're college students, and we don't have that kind of money. But it's another thing too. It's like what we all just said. Like we shouldn't as well let our opinions be or our judgment be based on a review too. Sometimes, sometimes we should, sometimes we shouldn't.
You can miss so much.
Yeah, exactly.
Just
yeah.
take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I mean, I
Just
I
wait
think,
for the game to be deducted in
I
price
think,
and then go buy
yeah, wait for the price to drop down.
Exactly.
Get in the used section of GameStop.
Yeah, exactly.
I think to an extent the reviews are good because for me they open my eyes to experiences, games that I wouldn't normally try. Like I tried Dishonored, which is a game, and same with BioShock. Two games I never would have tried normally, but I read the reviews and I was like, you know what, let's give it a shot. And I absolutely loved both of them. And Gears of War, which I've got mixed feelings on. And BioShock Infinite and all of these things, the reviews inspired me to play them or at least try them, but I would never in a million years
Wow.
base my opinion on.
So, like, Since you strongly rely on reviews, would you say that like if a game got like a 6, like you would just wait to play it, or you just wouldn't even play it, or?
It depends. If
depends.
There's some. If it was a fighting game, like a Mortal Kombat kind of game, I wouldn't care enough, even if it was 10 out of 10. But if it were a game along the lines of The Last of Us or Walking Dead or something that's a very story-driven game and it was based on a 6, I would consider it. I'm not going to. If it was consistent, if there were mixes and some people said 8, some people said 4, some people said 6. Then I would go for it because it's obvious that it varies in opinion. But if it's consistent,
and that's how I kind of felt about the PS3 exclusive Beyond Souls or Beyond Two Souls. Like the acting and the story seemed like it was solid, and it was something that I wanted to play, but I kept hearing.
Yeah, like it didn't get as good as reviews as they expected it to get.
Yeah, and I feel as though that's a game that I would still play, regardless, what the score was, just because it's something I'm interested in, just because. And quite frankly, Ellen Page, and she kind of killed that performance in that game. So
I love her. Everything she does, I love her.
That's something that I would still play, regardless of the score. So.
And I think ultimately it goes back to how, not only taking it with a grain of salt, but I think Paul had mentioned before how many sources you're using. If you're using only GameStop or only IGN, obviously you're going to have a biased review. But if you're using something like Metacritic, where you have not only reviews from professionals, but also user reviews, and it shows you like 2 people said this is bad, and you read why, and then 50 people say it's good, and you read why. It gives you a broader spectrum of ideas. It's like, because I know when I was looking up the different reviews of Last of Us, almost all of them were consistently good. And then you get one that was bad, and you read it, and it's just ridiculous. It's like either they accidentally hit 0, or they're just like trolling, and it's hard to tell which one's which
Probably
now.
trolling. Yeah. Most likely it's trolling.
There's always those people that are just gonna bash any game because it's too popular, because everyone else likes it, So
Call of Duty.
Right.
Well, that goes back to what our topic was last discussion lounge on fanboyism, and you get those people that jump in there and they're like, oh, I don't like this. I'm a Battlefield fan. I don't like Call of Duty. Let's bash it, and then they do that.
And plus, I think there's different ways to look for reviews. Like, is it trending on Twitter?
That's true.
Are your friends talking about it? So I think that's what pushes me towards buying a game.
How popular it seems to be.
If do my friends like
exactly.
it? I'm gonna buy it.
If my friends are like playing, they're like, "Come on, you should get it," and I'll be like, "Fine, all right, I'll get it," and I'll go buy that.
Well, I think if someone just bases their opinion off of IGN, then they're not a gamer. I'm gonna just they're not a gamer. I
think IGN is a crutch for gaming news and for gaming reviews. There are a lot of people, a lot of times I go to IGN for news, like big news. I look forward to every time Damon comes forward and says, "Hey, I'm Damon," and comes up with this big news story. I'm like, yes! But I would never go to IGN and be like, oh, let's see a review. Okay, it's got a 5, it's a terrible game. I think what makes somebody, when a good gamer is when they use other people's opinions. They don't base it off of a professional, and it's mostly real people. Because you don't know what the professionals, why they're giving it that review. They might say something, but you don't know if it has to do with the company or if it has to do with money.
Yeah.
But when you have, user reviews, or when you get it from a friend or something, that's when because that's what the gaming community is. It's not corporations. It's individuals. It's people like us that sit around here talking about video games for 15 minutes. But that's actually all the time we have. So thank you guys so much for joining us.
Not a problem.
And stay tuned for more Press Start.